Tony Sproul, and I just played with the Out of Favor Boys earlier here today. So I play saxophone with them. Obviously, we're about to talk about horns. If you got trumpet or trombone, I'm out. But saxophone, I'm in.
We got saxophone. We got another sax player.
My name is Gary Woodworth, up from Bloomington, Indiana area. Play with a band called the Steve Hauk Band. Currently, had a chance to sit in on the Blues Jam last night. Had a great time and pleased to be here for this discussion.
And my name is Mick Kolassa. I live here now. I lived here 35 years ago, and in between I lived in Memphis and Mississippi. Recording artist. That little bit of horn you heard is from my new album. But I've played with a lot of horn players and love them. And we want to talk a little bit about the role of the horns, and we'll stick with the sax, but just in general horns in blues, because blues started out as totally a verbal art form. Then it was banjos and fiddles until the Mexican migrants brought guitars to the Delta, and that was cheaper than fiddles and banjos, so the Delta musicians started doing that. As it grew, W.C. Handy was the person who really brought horns into blues. He's a trumpet player, but we'll forgive him for that. So, but living in Memphis, where horns are an essential part of music, I learned some things that I'd not noticed before. I've always enjoyed horns, but from working with horn players, seeing, and we were talking about this earlier, that the horns really have to tie a lot of the music together. And your role was a little bit, because you were singing too, weren't you? Yeah. And so you're coming in with solo riffs, but I imagine you can also sit back and pad and keep everything together when somebody else is going. And that's a key thing that people don't understand, is that it's nice to get out there, blow like mad, but you've got to listen to the music and really tie it together. You want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at the saxophone, especially in blues, as, I take my solos, but as a textural element. There's so many different aspects of what the music can sound and look like, between Hammond organ, guitar players, obviously, and bass and drums. But the horn has an ability to do things, I think, in a different fashion, so the textural element that really, as you said, helps to kind of tie things together. And in so many different genres of the blues, right? I mean, you've got Chicago, you've got what's happening in New Orleans, the Delta, even West Coast blues, things like that. The horn has different applications at times, but I think just being able to sit back and listen to the entire band and find out where you need to fit, especially as a horn player that's playing by myself. If I play in sections and things like that, it tends to look a little bit different, and it's always a lot of fun in those sections. But kind of being out in front, like I am in my band, singing, like you said, there are elements of times where it changes. It's funny because we're working on our 6th album, or we just finished the recording of that, and we brought people in for horn sections on this album. We arranged horn parts, and that's a little bit of a different departure for us, so I think when we eventually release that, we're going to bring those people back in, and it's not going to be just 5 of us on stage. There might be 8, something like that. But I think blues is such a music with deep feel and soul, and as a sax player, that's how I play. It just, somebody always asks me every now and then, hey, can you teach me what you do? And no, like I'm not great at theory. I can read music, but I'd rather not. Tell me what key we're in and we'll figure it out. But I think the feel of the music is a huge part of that.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. Tony approaches it a little differently. He goes right out to the front, is the front man. I go hide behind everybody next to the bass, between the bass player and the drummer, because I do think, horns add, we talk about texturally, they add a lot to the rhythm of the blues. And I think, learning how to fit in with a group and what your role is, it's completely different based on the composition of the band. I was telling Mick earlier, the group I'm playing in right now, I'm learning how to play a section with a sax and a violin fiddle player, and which is totally different, and learning how to make that sound. We don't have a keyboard in the band, so we're approximating and trying to do some of the keyboard fills, both rhythmically and harmonically between those two instruments. And I think playing in a small section like that, or a horn section, I find to be completely different than playing individually. In some respects, it's a lot more difficult. You got to put a lot more time into the individual horn players. Playing together and learning how to play together is entirely different than the individual. You've got a lot more freedom, and you can kind of figure out, all right, I'm going to play this riff, when the vocalist comes down, I'm going to not make sure I don't step on the vocalist, but play those riffs to kind of bring, like you said, more texture to it.
It's something I think, and it's interesting because the violin and the sax are two instruments that can play emotionally better than almost any other instrument. You can bring sadness or humor in. I've got a song called Robin's Blues. The guy playing a baritone sax on it. I've got a line, I can make you laugh. And so he throws a little laugh in there with it. And not overdoes it, but I've seen that time and again, where just a little taste of something, and that horn can just, magnify the feeling of the song, and that becomes really important. Something you were saying earlier that reminded me, Junior Wells was trying to teach Mick Jagger how to play blues harmonica, and in my opinion, he failed. But and in juniors, he did too. But Dick Waterman took this amazing series of photos. Dick was Junior Wells' manager, but he also is the guy who found Sun House and Skip James and brought him back out to us. So we lost Dick a few months ago, but these pictures are great because it's got Junior holding his harp, and he just looks cross, and you see him here, and then a smile, and you see him doing this, and he's saying, "Blues ain't up here, Jagger. Blues is here. It ain't up here. It's here." And that's kind of what you were talking about. You've got to cut loose and let the blues take you where it's going to go. So you're talking about just a muscle memory to know you feel that floor before you play it.
And that, that's something that I think all of us who have had the chance to play blues over a lot of years, it's passed down from person to person. It's not something that you go take classes in. It's not something that you learn unless you're out doing it. We are all the guys in my band, me included for sure. I'm always so thankful to all the people that were willing to give a shot at us. I remember we played a show at Wonderful's Funky Basement a whole bunch of years ago. Whole bunch of years ago, and opened up for Eddie King. And Eddie King was Coco Taylor's band leader forever. And he was a great guitar player and a great vocalist, and he came out with a fabulous album. And he was out touring, and at that point in time, he was probably in his 60s. And I'll never forget him getting us up at the end of the night and just working his way down the line. Now you play. Now you play. And he would stand there and just listen to you and listen, and then he started to cry, and he said, blues is in good hands.
Yeah.
And you take that moment, and I'll never forget it the rest of my life.
You ever listen much to Big J McNeely?
Oh, yeah.
We used to
lean back like that.
Oh God, yeah, lay on the floor and play. He was the most physical sax player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he was playing. We used to do this thing to raise money for the Hall of Fame called the Beale Street Mess Around, and he had just been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we invited him up. And I'd been talking with him, and he knew me a little bit, and he says, "Mick, you're going to sing." And so Dennis Grueling, the harmonica player, was up there, and the two of us are just giggling like little kids because we're backing up Jay McNeely, who, nobody could blow like that. It's crazy. In fact, there's a video taken at the Grammys with B.B. King and Coco Taylor and I think Buddy Guy and all kinds of, and Jay steals the show.
I know what you're talking about.
What do you recommend some horn players and horn parts?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's funny because you're talking to a horn player who wanted to play drums, ended up starting saxophone in the 5th grade because they didn't offer drums at my school or whatever for that, you know, that age bracket. So I wanted to play drums all in my early years, and just always wanted to play like a guitar player. So, you know, with BB and all those guys, you know, listening to blues, I always tried to figure out where I fit. And guys like Big J McNeely and Eddie Cleanhead Vinson, you know, some of those guys were huge for me. And my own mentor here in Kalamazoo, Ed Lester, taught me so much. And outside of that, there's a guy named Keith Crossan who used to play saxophone for Tommy Castro.
Okay.
The first time I ever heard Keith Crossan, I was like, that's what I want to sound like. That's the guy. Because I don't have jazz chops. I'm not a bebop guy. I can't do it. I don't hear it. But you know, I can feel a note, and I can you know. So I wanted to be rhythmic like a drummer. I wanted to scream and wail like a guitar player. You know, and I wanted to figure out how to do that on the saxophone.
Did you know a guy used to live here, town sax player, Ken Morgan? He had a band, he had a jazz band called Pieces of Dreams.
Yeah, it might have been before I moved out here.
That could be. He left for a while. He played with some guy, Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, so, you know, similar to Tony, I don't have jazz chops. Yeah, don't even pretend.
I wish I did.
Had some inspirations though. I mean, real young. I wish I had gotten to see him before he passed. Grover Washington is the sound that he could generate out of that horn just truly inspired me. I think probably an inspiration right now I'm working on a little bit is Maceo Parker. Yeah, I played for James Brown and a totally different style, you know. And he's one that, you know, we talked about this earlier, learning how to use space. And you know, every note that guy plays is there for a reason, and it adds so much to what they're working on. It's a unique style. I listen to him, but trying to learn how to do that funky, you know, it's just really cool. But you're right, blues is just, it's all about just feeling. And you know, you go and sit in on a blues jam. That's predominantly what I've done. I've not performed at the level you have, but you know, trying to put more time into it now. But you know, you get up there and you're thrown up there with a group of people that you've never played with before. You really don't know what's coming, and I'm the same way. I don't have a whole lot of theory, but give me the key, because I learned real quick that I better know my minor and major blues scales in all 12 keys and be able to play them. And I was telling Mick earlier, in the band I'm playing with right now, one of the challenges is, you know, you're going to play with the singer, the guitar player, the key they want to be in. The guitar player in our group right now tunes down a half step. Everything. So instead of playing in my normal F sharp on a tenor, I got to play an F. Well, we don't play an F very often, you know. So it's the learning is incredible. I love the people. People around the blues scene are just yeah, and they want to help you. You know, so if you're just getting into this or going back later in life and doing it, I mean, you'll be greeted with welcome arms. And
let me say, you know, the blues community is really amazing. You know, somebody badmouths somebody in the blues community, they're not going to be in the blues community for very long. We are a family. But because of that, you see people who really are supporting. All the artists are fans. We love to see somebody. It's like Doug McLeod, dear friend of mine. He and I are constantly nominated for Blues Blast awards in the same category. We vote for each other, and you know, it's just. But I want to say there's a couple other folks. Vanessa Collier. And I saw her last fall, and Laura Chavez, who we playing with Nikki, was playing with Vanessa, and that lady's got some chops that are unreal. And somebody had the pleasure of playing with a lot of Terry Hanks.
Oh, jeez.
And that's where four guys will get together and say, you want to do a show? Sure, let's just play. Well, we didn't rehearse. That's even better. Let's just play. And if you can do that, no. So if you can do that, that's where it makes it real fun. It takes it somewhere totally different.
And that's that like you just alluded to. That's like the fun part of the blues. I mean, the whole reason I came up playing blues was because of jam sessions, entirely because of jam sessions. And one of my favorite quotes to this day, especially when I'm talking to a younger player who might be interested in getting involved, Doug Olson, who was a bass player here in town, and I played with him many years. He passed years ago. But one of my favorite quotes from him on a jam session one night was, "Did you come here to play your instrument, or did you come here to play music?"
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That's good.
And it was such a small thing that triggered in me. It's like, oh, wow, because anybody can rip. You can shred on your guitar, you can do this, that, and the other. The whole band might stop, and you're still going.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be willing to play with the other musicians.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier with I just released my 15th album, so we bring in a lot of, and in Memphis you got this ocean of talent, but you need people that play sessions.
Yeah.
And we had the guy, I'm the best slide guitar player within 500 miles of Memphis, and we had to fire him because he was trying to be the star rather than play the song. But I work with some of these people that are world class, but they know what the role is. Yeah, I'm going to play your song, and I might make recommendations, but it's not my call. And you've got to do that when it's somebody else's music.
Man.
And gosh,
Just like you were talking earlier, like playing with guys like Tab and Law and other guys like that. When I'm lucky enough for one of them to call me up, and it's not my show. It's not my show. I need to be back here.
It's great they want us.
I need to be comping. I need to be laying back and doing my thing and find my space to fit. But it's not up front. And like you said, you know your role when it's time, and it makes the music better.
now let's keep making music. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, man. Lots of fun. We'll do another one in an hour.
Hey, we had a great discussion. Yeah, it was great. No one else heard it. That's
Yeah, oh no, there people stop by.